The only real God is the one that you believe in. Start looking for the God in others. And if you find you're tuning into a wave, well then I don't know much about being saved.
Welcome in, everybody.
Hello, hello, hello.
Welcome back to Spiritual Philosophy Chatter with the Joneses.
I am Samantha Jones.
And I'm Danny Jones. And thanks for tuning in again if you're joining us for another episode. And if you're joining us for the first time, thank you very much.
Yes.
We appreciate you listening and giving us your time.
We do.
We like to chit-chat, if you haven't noticed in the title. So that's what we're here to do today, and I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
So this is episode 10. And what is it?
Episode 10 is empathy.
Empathy. This is a good one.
This is a big topic. It's a lot bigger than I actually at first thought it was going to be.
Yes,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, before we jump into it, would you like to maybe recap last week? You got anything cool?
I do. I have a couple of messages here.
Awesome.
The first one is from Kelly. She said, Samantha, just wanted to tell you I have been listening randomly to your podcast. Today I decided I would start with the first and go in order since I have been picking and choosing prior to that. Spiritual awakening. What you wanted you to know, it got my attention. I think I'm going through this. You guys explain it so well. It's like sitting around a table with friends, learning about stuff you had no real inkling about. You had no real inkling about. Can't wait to listen to them all. Just wanted you to know that today you definitely reached me. Please keep doing these. Have a great Tuesday.
That's cool.
Yay.
That's really cool.
Thank
What was her
you,
name?
Kelly.
Kelly. Thank you, Kelly.
Yes, thank you so much.
That was really cool.
Yeah, I love those.
Those, you know what? It kind of makes it feel worth it when you hear stuff like that,
Right.
because you realize you are kind of getting up here in this microphone and exposing yourself, you know?
Absolutely.
And it makes it, like I said at the beginning, like there's got to be people out here that relate, that
Like-minded
think and
people,
feel
yeah.
the same way.
Yeah. And we're touching them. We're starting to find them, and I love that.
I do too.
Yeah.
That makes it so worth it. So thank you, Kelly.
Yes, thank you. And then the second thing that I have here, this is a lady that I did a reading for a couple of months ago, I believe, and she gave me some feedback on that reading, and I wanted to share that.
Cool.
She says, guess what? I know that this is not going to surprise you, but you were right. You told me when I released Brett, someone else was going to come in. It happened. And this is what she copied and pasted this that from the reading, quoting me. It will, and you will know, and this will all make sense, and you'll think of this reading, and then you'll think of me saying you'll think about this reading. I remember saying that, and,
Wow.
and so it's really funny when these come back to me.
Wow.
But anyways, then she said, you wrote this to me when we talked after I broke up with Brett. You said, let go because the right guy is waiting. I got flowers from the right guy today.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yay.
Who was that? What was the name again?
That was Nancy.
Nancy.
Yes.
Well, congratulations, Nancy.
Congratulations, Nancy. I give people relationship advice sometimes because I hear the same general principle for everybody. And that is like when you're going through a breakup, you have to release that person before you can even go on to the next one. It's the right person is not going to come along. You may have a lot of wrong people, but that right one isn't going to come along until you release those other ones and surrender. I always
think death
preach about
probably
surrender.
makes that the hardest part, you know, if that's how you're separating.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But for sure, I mean, again, thank you, Nancy, because that's great feedback and great story to hear,
Yes.
like a good ending.
And keep us posted on how that relationship is going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then we have a listener question.
All
That
right.
question is, how do you... So we're talking about last week's episode, which
Right.
was on music.
Right.
This question is pertaining to that. How do you decipher when a song is being sent to you from the other side as opposed to just another song on the radio? So I think where she was going with this is like my mom and dad and grandparents, they send me songs. So how do I know when they're songs from them? there's a few different ways. It's hard to pinpoint them down, but I will tell you a few key ways. First of all, emotion. If there's a song that's meant for you to know that it's for you, it will overwhelm you with emotion.
Right.
You'll connect to it on a level that you don't connect to other songs.
Sure.
Yeah. So for me, that's a big way, but also repetition.
That's also a big one.
I have had it shoved down my throat.
Yeah.
And it's like, why are they always playing this one song? Like lately, I've been hearing Bryan Adams' "Everything I Do It for You," and I
thanks to our neighbors. Thank you.
Yeah, them too, but in the car and everywhere, and it was like, okay, this song is really old, and why am I hearing it? And then after hearing it over and over again for maybe even a few weeks, there was that one moment where that emotion came over me, and I realized this is what she's telling me, because the work that my mom does on the other side is for me and my brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. I think that on both of those points that you pointed out on that is the emotion for sure, because I've had songs that I listened to for years that never affected me until a certain point. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden, when I did connect with that, and I don't know what the reason was. It was like I just really started to pay attention. I think maybe some way you select the song in a way because you're choosing to listen what's being said and let it come into you and have a deeper meaning. Because do you really know what the person that wrote it meant? Probably not.
No, yeah.
Unless it's really ridiculously silly or obvious or something.
Right.
But you know what I mean? So we all get an interpretation from lyrics and music different than somebody else, or maybe similar. But the point is songs come along and smack me even to this day.
Yeah.
Not every day, but recently where like this song never meant anything to me.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it got me one time, it got my attention.
Right.
And I got emotional.
Yep.
Like you said. And now when I hear it, I don't hear it the same anymore.
Yep.
It's really wild.
One of those songs for me is Toto by Africa.
Great song.
I never liked that song. I even told you once that I didn't understand why it was so appealing to so many people. Now it's a dad song, and now I crank it. How did I know that was a dad song? It was just one of those emotions and repeat when you hear it all the time. When sometimes I'll hear a song come on, like if I'm in the nail salon, and I'll realize I didn't hear any other song before this one, and all of a sudden I'm focused on this.
Right.
It's like they give you a little tap on your shoulder.
Like, hello.
Yeah, you just kind of have to pay attention for those little signs. And if there's a song that you hear over and over and over again, but you can't put the pieces of why maybe they're telling you this, just sit down, and we've done this before, pull it apart. Because we get all the time, or we used to at the very beginning, was George Michael Freedom 90.
Yeah.
And we pulled that one apart to try and figure out what it meant for us. Right. And so sometimes you
that
have
one
to do
had
those.
me in tears.
Yeah.
Because what it meant for me. Mm-hmm. And even, I guess right now, and more particular, it rings true even more.
Yeah.
Now. It's like I feel like there's a weight that's been lifted, and it's time for things to shift again.
And that's a good point, because you know what? Sometimes when you have those songs and maybe they don't make sense at that time, they may make sense later.
Right.
There's a lot of songs that we've established with my mom that I think we may not understand right now, but we will later. Anyways.
Yeah, I don't really know specifically to how to answer her question, other than when you find yourself in a moment of connected, even if it's one of those songs that you're not necessarily lyrically connected, but maybe the hairs on your arm stand up because there's a crescendo or a dramatic part or a dynamic part in the song that just grabs you. Take that moment. That's a sign to listen. And that might become your song.
Absolutely.
Maybe not. Maybe it's a different song.
Yep. You never know, but.
All right. Well, is that it for...
Yeah, that's my recap.
The recap. Cool. Well, thanks, everybody, for your input.
Yes, thank you.
Really cool. I appreciate it.
Like always, we appreciate it.
So I guess we're ready to jump into episode 10, then. Empathy.
10. Empathy. Yay.
So we're going to start with a definition.
Yeah, let's do that. What is empathy exactly? Empathy is the action of understanding, being aware of, being sensitive to and vicariously experiencing the feelings, thoughts, and experiences of, or without having experienced that feeling, thought, etc. Sorry,
Right.
that might have been confusing.
Right.
Let's see, where is it? Yeah. Yes, that's the definition.
You know what? When I was young, I remember thinking, these words sound so similar, sympathy and empathy. And I didn't understand as a little kid, what is the difference? And I think somebody explained it to me in layman's terms was sympathy is to feel sorry for someone. Empathy is to actually understand.
Right, or to feel their...
Right,
Yeah.
to put yourself in the position to maybe understand.
Right.
So, and that's not always easy. Can you relate with everybody in this world and their situation? No.
Right.
But if you try, you can dig deep. I think everybody can and feel a little compassion. I mean, you figure most people would towards their own family just because we've been brought up and that's important. But
Yep. Well, and that brings up a good point because one of the poll questions that I asked was how many people consider themselves to be empaths? And it was actually very high. Do you want to take a guess?
let's see, 89%.
It was 92%.
92%.
Now, take
Wow.
into consideration that these are the people that like our page. So some of these people probably are very spiritually connected.
Right.
So then I decided I wanted to know what the national average was because that did seem high. And it's 15 to 20% of the population is actually empathetic.
That's still good.
Yeah, absolutely. But what does it mean to be empathetic?
I mean, do a lot of people understand that? That was what I mean. Like, taking that poll, I guess you would probably have to understand what you're answering, but...
Right, absolutely. So that was one of the questions that I asked. What does it mean to be an empath? And there were a couple really good responses. This one is from Lori. She says, it means days spent wondering if your feelings are your own or someone else's. You either feel everything or nothing at all. I sometimes feel I have that dissociative order. When I should be bawling in tears, I'm not. I have to spend most of my days indifferent, and it causes problems because I have been called heartless. I can relate to that.
I can on some level, yeah.
Yeah, because I've had moments in my life where I am overly empathetic and I have to distance myself from the situation, and it does make you seem cold, but that's not it at all. It's just kind of protecting yourself, you know?
And that's okay. Boundaries is okay. Walls aren't okay,
Right.
I don't think, for us as humans, but boundaries are all right. And, you know, you could even debate on what the difference between that is, but think about it, and I think you'll understand.
Right. And then Nisha, she said, feeling others' emotions is the most simply way I would put it. And really, that is.
Yeah.
For a natural empath, you can feel somebody's energy. Most people have probably had that moment where they've walked into the room and they're like, oh, you can cut the tension with a knife. That's feeling the energy in the room, but that's not necessarily empathy. Empathy is more like this person is crying, so I'm crying. Do you know what I mean? Not all the time, but that is, for me, that's a big part of it. I can't handle seeing people crying or hurting because I feel that with them. Even in movies, like I'm the first one to start crying in a movie. It's ridiculous. And those are, you know, most of the time not even real characters, but my level, like, I am so super sensitive. I am such an empath. It's not even funny. So for me, like, I have to protect myself because otherwise people will suck my energy because I am such an empath.
Right.
You know? So this said, one of the things I looked up, it said, and most natural empaths are giving, good listeners, and spiritually in tune. And they're also INFJ personality type, which is intuitive, feeling, and judging. That is, I don't know if you've ever taken your personality test before, but that's what I am.
I don't think I have.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. You should check it out.
I really liked the thing that you shared on Facebook with the little cartoon person.
I was gonna bring that up.
It points out a lot of different qualities that simplifies it, sort of, I think, for a lot of people to maybe relate to.
Yes. So I posted this, and it says signs that you are empathetic, and I won't read them all, but here's a few.
Yes, read them all, please.
Okay. I'll read them all. Let's see. You cry when others cry. You feed off of others' energy. You worry about what others think of you. Friends often ask you for advice. You pick up on vibes instantly. Social situations leave you physically drained. You are highly sensitive. You put others' needs above your own. You're a human lie detector. The news is painful to watch. Commercials make you cry. You are a good listener. You absorb emotions. You overthink everything. You prefer deep conversation over small talk. Your love is over the top. Your emotions have made you physically ill. You treat your pets like they're humans. You are a natural healer. You have many highs and lows, and you feel everything deeply.
I relate to that so much.
Mm-hmm.
All those.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I was telling you and Marina a funny story when we were talking about this earlier this week. And that was, I always remember driving in the back seat with my mom, and my sister would be up front with my mom, and I'd be in the back seat, and I would see old elderly people like on the corner, you know, in LA, in Venice, when I was growing up. And I would cry. I would immediately feel, you know, I don't know if it was sadness. It was just like, wow, you know, like it must be tough as you get old like that. And another story that I told you guys was, my dad, when he'd come and pick us, my sister and I up, because my parents were divorced, we would drive by a lot of the times on the way home past a cemetery in Santa Monica. And I used to always tell them, you know, just being a kid, like Art Linkletter, the kids say the darndest things. I was like, I always wanted to go in there and just like read the names and the people and what they said and what they did and who they were loved by. Just their story. Pay some sort of respect to these souls.
Yes.
And my dad used to always just crack a joke like, "Oh, you're just dying to get in there." And but yeah, it was this feeling of, I guess empathy's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, it is. I think you're right on that one. I don't think I knew what an empath was until probably a few years ago, but I always knew that there was something different about me as a kid, and people just said that I was highly sensitive, and I used to get made fun of for that. My mom used to make fun of me so much,
especially
for being
girls, you know,
oversensitive.
because they're already can be sensitive and delicate.
Well, for me, because I'm so connected to animals, I'm also like an animal empath where I feel their pain too, which is very difficult. I can't watch any of those like shows about animals, bad things happening, or movies even that have animals in them, because I'll cry.
Stay away from the ASPCA commercials.
Yes, please. I mean, my mom used to make fun of me because I cried in Dumbo and Bambi, and you know, they're all cartoons, but it still got me.
It doesn't take much to move me that, like, theatrically. Even musically, it's, I feel so, like, connected to that, especially, like, you know, like we're talking about Elton, the Rocket Man, and just certain scenes about kind of understanding what the director was sort of trying to portray from his mind, you know?
Yeah.
Like a dream or a vision. I loved how they recreated that. It's neat.
One of the things that you and I talk about often is how we can't watch the news. That was on this list.
Man, I can't.
I used to watch the news every day, like 4, 5, and 6. Don't ask me why. I had to know all the bad things that were happening in the world, and it left me feeling emotionally drained. Yeah. I couldn't sleep. I was miserable.
Right.
And I don't watch the news. And I don't want to hear about it. And maybe that's shoving my head in the sand. Yeah. But I can't do anything about most of the things that are going on or that have already happened. So for an empath, I have to.
I totally understand. You know, and I think a lot of people, when I say that, are just absolutely shocked.
Mm-hmm.
You don't watch the news and like you're putting your head in the sand or something,
Right?
and ignoring your world or your country. No, it's not that.
No.
I mean, I know enough of what's going on, but
The important things.
the truth is really, yeah, singularly, you're not going to be able to change it. It's going to take a collective consciousness, or not even nationally, but I think globally, and
Yeah.
we're a ways away from that. But I think as a species in humanity, it's possible.
Right. I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Something else on here is you prefer deep conversations over small talk.
Oh yeah,
I hate small talk.
Yeah.
If I see you in public and you see me run the other way, it's not because I'm not friendly. It's because I am terrified of small talk.
yeah,
I don't know why. I guess it's something that comes along with being an empath. But if you want to have a deep conversation, if you want to philosophy chat with me,
Yeah.
I'll do it all day long.
yeah. I mean, it's not like I have to walk up to somebody in public and the first thing we do is dive into deep conversation.
Well,
I mean,
no, but
I can be like, "Hey, how's it going? And what's new? How's your such and such?
Yeah.
And how's
I'm
work?"
so awkward with that.
I mean, I understand that process, but at some point, it's like, okay, so are we gonna talk about anything? Because
Right.
we've brushed over all that stuff.
Or like I have friends that, you want to talk to and keep in touch with, but then when you do, it's like, hey, how are
Yeah.
you? What's new?
Yeah,
And it's just empty conversation. And like
Yeah.
you said, it's not like you need deep conversation all the time, but a little bit of depth, getting to see somebody's soul, understanding what's in there. That's important.
yeah.
I definitely think that's
It does.
That's
It's for
important.
me, even when it comes to my time with the band and music, it kind of extends beyond that because I really enjoy the conversations that kind of happen as
Yeah.
people are lingering afterwards.
Right.
A couple guys will usually stay. Tom is one of them that usually ends up staying a little bit, and I've been in other bands with him, so I've had like years of late night conversations.
yeah, those are the best.
In the studio and just totally doing this, like philosophy chattering about the universe and the world and what could be, and you
Hearing
kind
other
of,
people's input,
yeah, and you look back at it and you go, wow, I've kind of established a relationship with this person that wasn't based on that at all.
Right.
It was based on music, but now here we are and we've shared these things, and it's like you have a greater connection.
I was just going to say that because I feel like your empathy for somebody too has a lot to do with your connection to them.
Right.
Like when you and I argue, I'm miserable, not just for me, but for you.
Right.
And that makes me insane because I'm like, why are you feeling empathy for him when you're mad at him?
Right. No, likewise.
But it makes me crazy, but that's a part of being an empath. I can't help it. That's why, like, I don't say things that I know that I can't take back because I know that I feel that. I feel that burn. And the closer you are to somebody, I think the more that in tune you are with their feelings like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I learned that at a young age, or a younger age than you, luckily, that I didn't want to say things I don't mean.
Yeah.
And I've never been a really particularly violent person, but I definitely just, words, man, they can hurt just as much. And
They
I'm
do,
not saying
yeah.
I haven't, because I've used my tongue in not so good ways, but I think that,
Words stick,
do.
especially when you're an empath or highly sensitive. If you say something to one of us, we usually
yeah,
it hurts. It stings on a different level.
Right.
And then that's a part of like putting that wall up because you don't, like what Lori was
Right.
saying, you don't want to get hurt.
Right.
So you put that wall up to
Right.
protect your
Sure.
empathetic level.
And some of those reactions would be out of pain, which you're
Mhm.
going to come at with anger usually,
right.
because to me, anger really is just a mask of your pain.
Right.
It's a defense mechanism.
It is.
Back off. I've had enough.
That's exactly right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So then I asked our listeners, have you always been an empath? And 100% of the people polled said that they have.
That's interesting.
I knew that you would
100%.
find that interesting, yeah. Because I don't think that you consider that you've always been an empath. Am I correct to say that?
Well, dating back to the story I told with my mom and my sister, I had to have been 6, 7,
Yeah.
maybe,
Oh,
you know.
maybe,
So
yeah.
I don't know if before I wasn't a perfect child by any
No,
means,
there's nothing perfect about
but
anybody, but
I always remember just emotionally feeling emotional. I
right.
didn't. Maybe my mother, you know, because I was kind of raised around my mother. I only saw my dad, you know, every other weekend
Right.
for a couple days,
Right.
and I don't think it was enough. And he was a lot not being around each other
Right.
most of the time. I did eventually move here once, came back to my mom's, moved back there for high school, and as time went on, we got to know each other. But he was kind of more of a quiet guy.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so
I think that you go through periods in life where you can almost block out that empathetic level
maybe,
to a degree. I think I went through that, and we've talked about that after my divorce,
Yeah.
that I shut down.
yeah,
I completely shut down because I was so jaded and I was so just like, forget it. It's about me. It's not about anybody else but me. And I had no empathy, and it was just a defense mechanism. It wasn't who
Right.
I had become. It was just a defense mechanism. And once you and I were in an established relationship, I relaxed, and that those walls came down, and I didn't feel like that anymore. And I felt like I was able to show that side again.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I definitely think that we can do that. We can be an empath, not be an empath, be an empath again. But at the end of the day, you still always have those emotions, whether you let them out or not. They're still always there to a degree.
I went through a period in my life, I'd say maybe from about 20, no, I would say more like 16 or 17 to like 22, where I was really focused on humility and like empathy.
Mhm.
And I feel like they really do balance each other, because you got to let your ego and your pride down
You do.
with anything in life to really relate to people.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being proud, you know.
No, not at all.
That's not what I'm talking about here. Over excessive use of pride and ego is what I mean.
Right.
So, but yeah, I spent those years really focused on that, and then I kind of like you, I walked away from it for a while.
Yeah.
And I realized how important it is in your everyday dealings with people in general.
Mm-hmm.
And what becomes even more ever apparent to me in my own heart and my own mind is this really is a magical secret key to unlock the human problem on this planet.
Oh, yeah.
Is empathy and understanding. It falls under the umbrella of understanding. And peace, love, and understanding, man.
Mm-hmm.
That is the keys. Those, you can't touch them. You can't buy them in a hardware store, but they're there for us to use.
Yeah.
And if we do, we could really turn it around anytime we want.
We really could. I think that there's a lot more empaths out there, but they maybe, like I said, they kind of block it out. And if that could be reopened in them, then like what you're saying, maybe we could make changes in this world and make it a happier, better place, you know? Now I'm singing.
You know, and obviously traumatic things happen to people in their lives that even at a young age that they didn't ask for.
Right.
That somehow neurologically shut down these options to be such.
Right.
You know, I don't know if it's neurologically, psychologically.
Right.
But there's trauma that occurs that we were talking about this earlier at dinner with somebody that we knew that possibly that's a result of maybe why they are the way they are.
Right.
And I could see that. So it's all a chain reaction.
It is.
We all affect each other. We teach each other. We learn from each other.
Yes.
And if we're not doing this at every level, I'm talking every level.
Right.
To the mansions of Beverly Hills, to the inner cities, you know, to the slums, it would change humanity.
It really would. It really would. That's a very good point. We were talking to Marina the other night, and I really enjoyed that conversation. That's Danny's daughter, my stepdaughter. She is a natural empath.
Oh, yeah.
And it has been really interesting to watch her grow up and develop those without even knowing that she's developing this sense almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the reason I bring it up is because I feel like for people like myself and Marina that have had things that have happened to them in their life as a child, does that make you more of an empath as an adult? You were just talking about the counter side of that and how maybe it affects you in the negative. But for me, I feel like what I went through as a child made me more empathetic to people suffering. I had some things happen in my childhood we're not going to get into. But going into the next question that I asked our listeners was, have you ever felt sorry, or have you ever felt that you shouldn't be empathetic for somebody, that maybe that's, they've done something to you, or a murder or something like that? There were things that were done to me as a child that I feel sorry for those people that did those things to me.
Right.
And for a lot of people, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
They can't understand that.
Right.
That is a part of being an empath, because you look at not just the surface of this person has done something bad to me, but you look at, why did this person do something bad to me? Were they hurt in their childhood?
Right.
Is this a pattern?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that those things can also make you more empathetic.
Right.
Yeah.
That's very good examples. I one thing that kind of in my mind I was thinking about when you were saying that, it made me think about how similar my life has ended up in some facets to my father's.
Right.
And how I decided with Marina in general, even before you and I ended up together, but early on, for some reason with your child, it's easy to do that.
Right.
Right? It's easy to feel that much for somebody.
Yeah.
At least for me it is.
Right.
And I think most parents would relate.
There's those few that...
So when I started trying to get back to that mentality, that I said I kind of walked away from.
Right.
I think it was kind of when she came along, or when I finally decided, okay, I want to have a child, because we planned her.
Yeah.
And I got back to that more, because I said, now I have to teach. Okay. And she's going to learn from me. And what's funny is she's schooled me in some of the things that I've said.
Yeah.
In an empathetic way.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel kind of embarrassed that I got her to say that to me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like, wow, I did a good job.
Yeah.
Because she has that.
She does.
I think this relationship and situation in my life now mirrors so much of, like I said, my growing up, that I thought, this is my opportunity to do it different.
Right.
To take those things that were maybe traumatic for me and change them.
Yes.
Break that chain, that cycle.
Yes.
I definitely think that you can walk away from it, though. You can say, I don't want to be empathetic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But here is an interesting thing. So I did that question that I was mentioning. Have you experienced empathy for someone you feel maybe you shouldn't have? 100% of people said that they have.
Yeah.
I think it's very common. I sometimes beat myself up about that, and I try not to, but I'll be like, why are you feeling sorry for this person after what they've done, whether it's to me or somebody else? There's been instances where I'm just like baffled by the fact that I'm feeling empathy for somebody, but I can't help it.
I think in this situation, that old saying goes a long way, which is walk a mile in someone else's shoes.
Yes.
And when you really start to think about that, that says a lot.
Right.
But what I was going to say real quick about when we were talking about Marina is that I just felt like if I could practice using that level of empathy I have for my child towards everybody that that I come across, I'll be a better person.
Right.
But for sure,
That's a good point, because I tell people that too, like treat your wife the way you want your future son-in-law to treat your daughter. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It just seems like
It is. I don't know why I had to put it in that context.
Right.
But I did.
Yeah.
And it's helped me. It's helped me to get back to that, I guess I have to picture each person. It's kind of weird, but I have to picture each person somehow as a child.
Oh, yeah.
Like an infant soul. Not like they're, not smart or capable.
No,
but approach it in more of a gentle kind of way.
Right.
And I see the results.
Yeah, it
resounding.
really is. I mean, I don't think that you have to be naturally born an empath. I definitely think it's something that you can build, like what you're saying. I think that if more people would build that, like you're saying, that we would all get along better,
For sure.
Yeah. Let's see. So this question, it's funny because I had already done all the poll questions, and then I was thinking about this topic, and all of a sudden this came to me that something that I feel all the time that maybe others do, and that is, do you sometimes wish that you weren't an empath? And I personally, as bad as it may sound, I really do sometimes wish that I wasn't. I feel like life would be easier if I wasn't so sensitive and I didn't feel everybody's pain, because I do feel like I'm on the complete end of one spectrum of sensitivity.
Right.
And it is really difficult. So like for me, I believe that. So one of the responses that we got from that was from Hannah, and she said, interesting thought. Sometimes, especially when it was still pretty new to me being aware of it, because it can be taxing. I'm a super emotional person and I still don't have it under control. And there are days I wish I could completely turn it off.
Yeah.
It is very
I could
difficult.
see for you, thanks, Hannah, for giving that input. I could see for you being a medium and that being tough, because it's like, how does doctors get in with patients and not get emotionally attached? You have to, again, not walls, boundaries. You have to still take care of you, but it doesn't mean you can't have empathy and compassion.
No.
But I could see for you that being a tough one. Like, God, I wish I could just shut it off. I think for me in this experience now, you almost get like high from it a little bit. Like you start to see that the response and the results and the love that goes back and forth between your relationships and the energy that you feel, even if it's unspoken. But I would say for me, maybe sometimes. I think sometimes when you get in the car and you're grabbed by that song and you're just in tears, you're like, what? It was a perfectly fine day.
I did not have a migraine this morning.
I have no Kleenex. There's no napkins in the glove compartment.
Worst. Yeah.
And you've got me in absolute tears.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
That always happens. Yeah. It's like, well, maybe we should listen to music more at home and less in the car.
Right. So, yeah, it's just, but those are, and again, it's not like sad emotion, but it can just come over so quickly where you're not really expecting it.
Yeah.
And there may be some like moments like that. I'm like, God, I really wasn't ready for that.
Yeah.
But I always end up feeling better.
A part of being a medium and a psychic, like kind of what you were just saying, is that I do pick up people's emotions, and being an empath on top of those things makes it even harder. Right. So not just when I do a reading, but even if I see somebody post something about losing an animal or losing a person, I get emotional, especially if it's something that I can super relate to, like a mother or losing a mother or something like that. Yeah. I get emotional, and I like to do my readings mostly through Messenger or text, because I can cry. Because I can let myself get emotional. I don't feel like it's okay for me to break down in front of a client in person or on the phone, but it happens because
That's
I am
hard.
that
How
emotional.
do you not?
Yeah. And sometimes just the energy from the spirits themselves fill you with that like empathetic feeling for people. I don't know how to really explain that, but
Right.
there's definitely days, like on the days that I feel like I'm more connected to the other side, my level of empathy is different too.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's all the same all the time throughout our lives. You know what I mean? It's like one of those kind of crazy subjects that, yeah.
I tend to welcome it more now as I've gotten older too. I think you get soften and, maybe for me, I just felt like I was searching and for the answer, for inner peace and a way to connect to other people on a different level.
Absolutely. I think when you're younger, you almost put up that, like, I'm a tough guy
Right,
kind
I'm
of
cool.
wall. Right, exactly. You don't quite understand
Right.
life, although you think you know everything.
Right.
And
fast forward 48 years, and here I am in the car. Turn the radio down.
Seriously, what is that all about? Oh, yeah. I tell my mom, you used to make fun of me for crying in Dumbo, okay?
Right.
Now I cry in my car
Right.
when Happy comes on the radio because I'm overly
Did you say she
empathetic.
smacked you for Pee Wee Herman or something?
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah, that's a good story.
For crying
But
at Pee Wee Herman.
that wasn't because I was feeling empathetic. Although that's a good story now that I'll have to share because our listeners are like, what are you talking about? Pee-wee's Big Adventure came out when, I don't know how old I was, 7 or 8, and my mom took me to see it in the movie theater. And if you've seen this movie, there's a part with a character named Large Marge, and she tells this spooky story, and I was like really overly sensitive, even way back then. So she's telling this spooky story, and all of a sudden her eyes pop out of her face and tongue comes out of her mouth, and it's like this claymation thing that just scared the crap out of me. And I screamed bloody murder in the middle of the theater, and my mom backhanded me. I didn't say a word the rest of the movie. If she would have done that nowadays, can you imagine?
Oh no!
I would have taken her off to jail. But
Yeah,
anyways,
right there.
I was always overly sensitive, always, and was that a part of being overly sensitive? I don't know. Everything scared me.
Yeah.
I don't know what part of it, was the empath side and what was just the, I don't know.
I think you just had overprotective guardians,
Yes.
grandma, mom,
Well, and that's a good point too, actually, is what if you are raised by empaths? What if it's a family of empaths? Because, like, even the three of us, you, me, and Marina, we will have, like, those deep conversations, and it's nice to have that connection. But my grandmother, who I didn't know was psychic when she was alive, but I do know now, she was also an empath, and she was extreme about it. And so I think for me, I absorbed a lot of her emotions and a lot of my mom's emotions. But my grandma she was afraid of everything and very nervous. And so being an empath already, I picked that up from her and was very nervous and very stressed at a young age about everything.
Right.
So that's something else that we need to think about is with our children.
Right.
If they're empathetic, like Marina, you have to be cautious of that.
Right.
When she talks about being afraid of something, I try to downplay it to help her with those things.
Do too, for sure.
Because my grandma always hyped him up.
Yeah, one biggest thing for me is as a man, I'm not afraid to show her emotion.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Like sometimes she was, what was it? Oh, she got the award in yearbook class.
Yeah.
And teacher saved her for last.
Yeah.
And this teacher has been really awesome. Marina, you can just tell how much she admires this lady.
Yeah.
I've even spoken to the woman. Really cool person. Great soul. But so she's telling me, on the way home that day, towards the end of this year, I got the award. Mrs. Such and Such saves me for the last. And she goes, immediately, all she said was my name, and I started crying.
Yeah.
And so, but just hearing what she said and what this teacher said about her, had me in absolute tears on the way home. I was so proud of, like, wow. Somebody not only, at one point during the year, she took Marina out one night, just the two of them for coffee or something. I don't remember what.
Yogurt,
frozen yogurt. And I thought, wow,
Yeah.
not a lot of people would do that.
No.
Not a lot of people have enough empathy. And this lady was doing it out of a situation that she related to and was trying to connect with her and actually instigated the whole, event herself. But she was really empathetic to her and she showed her, and that really solidified for Marina.
Right.
But man, yeah, when she was telling me that, I was just like, wow, I cannot believe.
Yeah. There's a lot of emotion and crying and not bad crying, but we're all just we feel this more now. It's like the household has become more empathetic as a whole, So I was kind of thinking about what you were just saying and wondering, how can we change the level of empathy in this world? And I started thinking about, like, Marina, she has a very understanding class.
Right.
But there are people that have made fun of her for being as sensitive as she is.
Right.
And I wonder if instead of telling those people that telling those children they're being too sensitive, if we found another way to explain to them what it actually is that they're feeling. Because I know as a kid, I knew I was sensitive. I did, but I couldn't change that. That's who I was. So why are we trying to make it a bad thing? Right. Why are these kids bullied because they're, shy, quiet, sensitive?
You know what? I wish there was just one particular answer, babe. I really do. I think that it begins with the parent.
Yeah.
And that child is so much. We all are little sponges. And we don't realize how much we absorb in the environment we're raised in and how much we repeat that without even knowing. Unless it's pointed out to us.
For sure.
I think everybody be themselves. Like, teach people and your young ones that it's okay to be a different color. It's okay to have a different political view. It's okay to have a different sexual preference. Whatever it is. But I think the number one thing is you can't have empathy and compassion until we get rid of this macho bullshit, sorry for my French, and like bullying. That's where that starts.
Yes, that's exactly right.
That someone is learning from someone else and taking it to school or these other public places and reenacting, what they see. Yeah. That has to stop.
It does. And how do you make it stop? Because it goes back to the parents, and then it's a cycle. You know what I mean? Like, it goes back to their parents. You have to be the one to stop this. And we're going to do an episode on this in the future.
Yeah. You have to be involved with your child and talk to them.
You really do. Yeah. You have to make a conscious effort to not repeat the bad behaviors from the previous generation. And I think that if we could all do that and see those things that were bad about our childhood and not repeat them, and instead use them as a way to help people, that would increase empathy. And our children would see this positivity, and maybe I don't know, maybe I live in a fantasy world where kids don't get bullied and everybody loves everybody else. Right. But it is possible.
I believe in the process of evolution.
Yeah.
That everything is changing, always, ever changing, and that includes the human race. And we can evolve into this mindset, almost put it back in our brains, how dogs are bred with certain instincts and things and insights that we don't even know about. If we began to do that and kept our commitment as a race to save our humanity and our planet. Yeah. And that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, that's another topic.
But just talking about the people and souls that occupy this planet, if we began to do that, I believe it would actually change within our brains, and genetically we would just be passing.
I do too. Absolutely. I mean, I have this, wish of creating different civilizations that don't even have these kinds of problems, that don't even know about these things. Right. Like, that goes back to not being able to watch the news. It's like, it may be shoving my head in the sand, but why am I going to fill my head with this? It just makes life more difficult.
The news isn't pushing compassion or empathy.
There's no compassion or empathy.
The news is pushing sadness and blame and disaster, and there's nothing. If we stopped doing that and started showing the world some of the good things that are going on,
Right.
and not strictly bad, we're just breeding our brains, like I said, genetically programming them. So then we're just passing that paranoia on.
That's exactly
And it's
right.
sad. It's sad to watch. So, yeah, sorry. I disconnected from that long time ago.
Absolutely. Me too.
I barely even watch TV now. We were talking about the other day. We're like, we pay like $180 for like an hour
dumb.
of sleep. Just fall asleep to the television? Not
Really,
even fall
it's
asleep.
like
We turn it off
channel.
before we go. We watch it for maybe half an hour before we go to sleep. But it's like, thanks. Thanks for that $180 bill.
And it's funny because that used to be like one of the most important things to me. Like when I was in my 20s, I was like, don't take away my TV. Now I'm like, get rid of it altogether. And it's funny because I've heard this since I found out that I was a medium, and it is watching television is like taking spray paint to your third eye. Yeah. And it is. It like shuts you down. And there's nothing wrong with escaping. I love going to the movies and those kinds of things. But I don't want to see the junk on TV. I now feel different emotions. Like we used to love The Walking Dead. And that's, I don't think that's part of being empathetic.
No.
But it definitely, this whole thing has changed me to see that kind of differently. I don't enjoy it like I used to.
No.
It totally changes the way that you...
Well, it's putting you in a different mood. It's not a happy place per se.
Absolutely.
So, but I agree with you there.
Yeah.
I love it creatively.
Yeah.
I think it's still a cool idea. But yeah, it's just sort of like, okay, how long is this going to go on for? Well, I guess eternity. If they're calling it the apocalypse.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. You get to the point where it's like, I just want to be happy and uplifted and, you know.
If anything, I just like to watch TV that they make something. I like to see people using their minds and their hands. And
totally. Or happy animal shows. I like happy animal shows.
Yep. So does Zuma.
Yes, our Great Dane Zuma, he loves animal shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that the last of the poll question?
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Cool. Well, you know what? This one was really good, and I feel like it really flowed.
Yeah.
Just to talk about it, and you know, and I feel like we did talk about it a little bit during the week, but not a huge amount.
Yeah.
And it was just nice for it to just come in, and it feels natural.
Right.
It's a good topic. It feels like I like what that young lady said earlier, just that like we want that to feel like this.
Right.
Like you're sitting around with some friends that aren't afraid to open up a little bit about all these things in this world that you can't see and touch and feel.
Yeah.
But you know what? Damn it, they're there.
Yep.
And empathy is one of them. It is a magical key to unlock some of, and if not all of, the pain and the suffering that is happening and that we're actually creating.
Yep.
So, because we're the only ones inflicting this on ourselves.
This is very true.
Or each other.
Right.
And when we can finally wake up and open that third eye and see that, it's freeing. It's freeing to say, you know, I feel you. Yep. I love you, and I feel you, and I understand where you're at and where you're coming from. That doesn't mean you have to agree with everything that you see or somebody does or says, but with every action comes a reaction.
Yes.
And if you think more about your reaction before reacting, try to just sort of like super inject some empathy in there really fast before you respond.
Think about how you would feel in this situation. That's what I try to do, or how I try to explain empathy to, is put yourself in that person's situation. Just, it's a great way to kind of understand a little bit more. That really is a key to empathy, is that you feel the emotions of others. And
and don't be afraid. I mean, don't be afraid. To be spiritually connected, you have to be open to let emotions flow. Besides anger.
Well, yeah.
You have to let that pain out. Yeah. Let that empathy or those tears come, and you'll start to see that it's not necessarily sadness, really.
No, it feels better.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? When you express that empathy more, and you you connect more with people, even if it's just small little things.
Right.
It spreads like wildfire and it makes you feel better.
Yeah.
If you're just, all the time and walking through life with your head down,
Right.
you're never going to experience those kinds of feelings.
And it could be as simple as like, today I'm going to try to do something in some empathetic manner.
Right.
Towards somebody or for somebody,
Yeah, exactly.
And start small and try to be conscious of it.
For sure.
It takes me that a lot,
I think all of us have to still remind ourselves, that we are human. We're not perfect. Nobody is. Just because you're an empath, it doesn't mean that your feelings are always like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Tough. Definitely tough.
Yeah.
Well, we have done it. We have about 5 minutes left.
Chatter.
Another one in the can.
Yeah.
So, but we do have about 5 minutes left. If you wanted to plug anything, share anything.
I do, because this Sunday,
Sunday.
I am going to be doing readings at the Health and Healing Expo at the Hyatt Westlake Village here in Southern California. I will be there from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Readings are 15 minutes. They're $30. Come on in, ask for me. I will be happy to do a reading for you. Nice. I would love to. And they also have like an exhibit hall and yoga in the morning and different speakers. So I'm really excited about all of it. Like, there's some really cool stuff. You can go on the web to healthandhealingexpo.com or on Facebook, look for them. And you'll see the different programs that they have. So anyways, I'll be there Sunday.
Come check it out.
June 23rd.
I might even be there. So if you see a long beard and bald guy with nerdy glasses, come say hi, introduce yourself.
What's the guy from ZZ Top's name?
Oh, yeah. Similar. I get Billy Gibbons a lot from ZZ Top.
I like to call him Uncle Si.
Uncle Si. I got Uncle Si beat, though, really, when you think about it.
That's a fact, Jack. He also loves his tea.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm more like him. But
yeah. So, anyways, that's that. So then, okay, if you don't already follow us on social media, we have a lot of social media pages, as you should nowadays. We have a Facebook and an Instagram. You can find us there at Spiritual Joneses, or on Twitter at Spiritual Jones. And you can also email us at spiritualjoneses@gmail.com. If you are interested in getting more information on my reading services, you can find me on the web at SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com, or on Facebook, my page is Beyond the Bridge 11.
Wait.
Yay.
Cool.
That's my plug.
Thanks for plugging.
Yeah.
Plug it up.
Yeah.
I got a little too.
Yes.
Good. All right. If you like art, I do art and some photography as well. You could check me out on Facebook. My page is D Jones Art Collection, at D Jones Art Collection on Facebook, and hashtag D Jones Art Collection on Instagram. And if you like music, play in a band called Gypsy Brown, you can find us on Reverb Nation, gypsybrown.com, and also Facebook. So have some exciting things happening. I know I keep saying, but the wait will be worth it. But there's a lot of things swirling and changing and happening, but for good, for the real good. So we're excited, and we can't wait to share it.
Yeah, great.
Well, I guess we've done it, and...
Oh, I would like to announce something.
Oh, please.
Next week, the topic. I am really, 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 really excited about this one. This one's going to be about animal communication.
Cool.
And this is, for me, the number one thing I've been looking forward to talking about.
Cool.
So tune in, because it's going to be good. I promise.
Yes.
It's going to be good.
And you know what you're talking about with it, so.
And I love the animals, and I want to tell you all about what they think and how they feel.
Cool.
Yeah.
Can't wait to do it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for listening in.
Yes, thank you.
We really appreciate your time.
Yep.
And we hope you join us next week. Same time, same bat channel. But You guys have a great week.
Have a great week.
Thanks
everybody.
a lot. We appreciate it. Take it easy and peace
and love.